Welcome, welcome to season 3 of Great Grief. I'm Nina Freelon, and this season we are listening closely to the stories, the songs, the quiet places where grief hums beneath the surface. Together, we open spacious, culturally wide lens, letting our many voices lead the melody and harmonize. Held in a decidedly feminine gaze, we improvise our way through loss, love, and remembrance, honoring grief not as something to fix, oh no, but something to feel, to breathe with, and sometimes to sing right out loud. I don't know why, but I'm feeling so sad. I long to try something I've never had. My grandmother, Irene Perry Smith, was a garden woman. Some may say she had a green thumb. She taught me from her deep-rooted wisdom about life, love, and trials and tribulations. She pulled narratives from her plants. A keen observer, she talked to them and they returned the favor. She knew them by name and habit. Beloveds, theirs was a kinship very much like family. I watched as she transformed seemingly lifeless sprigs into vibrant, healthy plants. Her knowledge seemed to me like magic. I loved being in my grandmother's presence. And as a little girl, being by her side, helping her with weeding, it was my favorite. She taught me that weeding makes space for what you want to manifest. It's a kindness. But how do you know, beloveds, the difference between a weed and something else? I'd ask her. She taught me to see things from a plant's perspective. What does it like? A sunny location? Dappled shade? She knew how to identify a weed by its behavior. Does it wind over, vining around and choking out the light, or multiply in such great numbers that it crowds out everything? Watch, observe, and a plant will tell you its whole story, just like a person. She loved flowers, and she knew all the colorful names like Johnny Jump Up, Brown Eyed Gal, and 4 o'clocks. She was on a first name basis with her garden. Following in her tradition, I named my own glorious rose bush Queen Irene. I learned about the cycles of life and death by her side, while in the company of petunias, hollyhocks, and sunflowers. Now, my grandmother was born in Bonita, Louisiana in 1899 and grew up on a farm. Like a lot of, Black women, she was used to hard work. She was born into a family of sharecroppers, and when harvest time came, they did not, as she put it, get their fair share. The land they labored on held both promise and trauma. This complicated relationship unfolded in both racial and gendered ways. Men, women, and children had a hard road to hoe. Abuse, betrayal, loss, and grief were harvested in an uncertain world of natural and unnatural disasters. Sun up to sundown, sun up to sundown. Or as she would say, from can't see to can't see. But this reality did not prevent my grandmother, Irene, from loving and learning from the natural world and sharing that love with me. When I asked my grandmother how she came to know and love plants, she credits her mother, Magdalene. Welcome to Season 3 of Great Grief with Nina Freelon. I'm your host. This season invites you into stories and songs and thoughtful spaces to examine grief through a culturally wide lens, grounded in a decidedly feminine gaze. These conversations honor tenderness, resilience, and the many ways grief shapes and deepens our humanity. Great grief. I'm so glad you're here. My great-grandmother Magdalene Perry Smith has me curious about what is passed down in that garden. My great-grandmother was about 5 feet tall, very deep-skinned woman. She was quiet, strong, and capable. Now hers was the first garden. The plot of earth she tended kept the family fed. There, she was able to keep hunger at bay and encourage a bit of beauty through the cultivation of her flowers. She also kept chickens and pigs. She hand-washed clothes, worked the family garden, canned fruits and vegetables. She sewed clothes. She made quilts. And she could read, unlike her husband. She had a quick wit and did not suffer fools easily. Her husband, John, my great-grandfather, treated her as much like a queen as a black man could in those days. He called her babe and was proud of the fact that his wife never had to work in the fields. A strong woman, dark and fine, dark and lovely, sweet and comely, that's my baby. People can't you see? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sweet cinnamon and ginger, she's got me wrapped around her pretty little finger. That's my baby, my baby. People can't you see? Sweet cinnamon and ginger, she's got me wrapped around her pretty little finger. That's my baby, my sweet honey bee. Every day, my great-grandmother Magdalene made supper for the family and all the field hands with a bounty from her garden. Now, she died before I was born, but I do remember seeing a black and white picture of her. She was staring directly at the camera with an expression I couldn't quite read. She wore a high-collared black dress and a small straw hat. Now, I thought she looked kind of mean, and I believe I said so. My grandmother said, those were mean times. Her mother, she said, was quiet by nature, rarely smiled, and did not trust the camera, which was for her a newfangled device. After her husband John was murdered, she stopped speaking altogether. My great-grandmother, Magdalene, in one terrible, violent moment, became a widow, and grief took both her voice and what was left of her smile. I am a widow. This is something we share in common, and there are days when I can feel the spirit of my great-grandmother Magdalene, a woman I'd never met, rising in my spirit, informing me, sing, child, sing pretty. And I believe there might be a smile catching in her voice. Must my heart a widow be? Widow's song is never free. To have and hold my love for thee, must my heart a widow be. Thank you for joining me for this love session of great grief. I'd like to leave you with a poem, A Question of Sorrow. And so with a question, I bent my sorrow into leaves, like the ones on the peach tree in the backyard. It took some doing, alternating solemn droplets, arranging green to match a treesome pitch. Some said it was not possible to make of sorrow a leaf or any other thing except more of the same. I know a different truth. You have but to ask, how like sorrow are you, leaf? And it will, bending toward green, alternating on stem, be your answer. I don't know why, but I'm feeling so sad. I long to try